All right, Olivia, thanks so much for joining us today. We very much appreciate it. How's everything going?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. How's Boston?
Boston's great. It's kind of dreary and wet, but it's great.
Yeah. How long you been up there for now?
2 years. 2 years in this past November.
Well, so what brought you up there so did you go from here to there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were living in East Granby through COVID, and my fiance worked for Skidco Barbershop in Enfield
Shout out.
for a while. And then shout out.
Shout out.
And then COVID happened. We were bored. I got the opportunity to permanently work from home, which is great. And we just kind of took a jump, and he works at a barbershop out here now in Beacon Hill. And it's been a dream. It's been really great.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So everyone who knows you, I think they hear your name and immediately think of your talent in the music world, right? And I remember you worked at Bob's, right?
Did.
So I remember because everyone and their mother worked for Bob's, right? Like this is a Bob's reunion right now for those who don't know, right?
Yeah.
So I remember though when I was at Bob's, I always remember hearing about how well you sang, and I think American Idol was maybe around that time.
It was. So what was around that time, I won a singing contest at Mohegan Sun, and I won a car. Is what happened when I was working at Bob's.
Okay, so that was the Bob's legend then. Okay.
It was also my first car, which was really cool.
What kind of car was it?
Oh,
geez. It was a 2010 Subaru Impreza.
There you go.
Oh,
it has since been totaled, but it had a good run. I didn't pay for it. It was great.
Right? That's awesome.
That's awesome. Wow.
So like I said, anyone who hears your name, it's like right away music. So I want to ask you off the jump, what was your first memory of music having an impact in your life?
And it had always been a part of my life. I grew up, and I feel like so many musicians and artists say this, but I grew up in church, and I was in the church choir, and it was that whole thing. And what it really comes down to is that my dad is a musician, and he is a singer, and he has been in bands my whole life. And we had grown up around that. And at some point in time, the band had started rehearsing in the basement at my parents' house. So I was a little kid, probably 8, 9 years old, with my dad's buddies coming over every Sunday, and they'd be in the basement playing music. And I just sit on the stairs watching with my little sister, and we'd sit on the stairs and watch and just think it was the coolest thing. Like as an 8-year-old, watching my dad in a band was like, this is so cool. My dad is a rock star. This is the coolest thing. And I'd have friends over on the weekends and like hope that they'd stay for Sunday band practice so they could see how cool it was. And the older I got, it was there was just this turning point where I realized that I had a bit of a knack for it when I was younger, and I really loved it. And the older I got, I wanted to do it. But it really all boils down to my dad.
That's cool.
That's cool. So he was a role model of yours?
Oh my God, yeah. And we are very similar in so many ways, but just having that and growing up into it and having him kind of show me the ropes and pave the way was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. And I have to ask, what is your like favorite music genres? Is there any favorite artists that you have?
I have I just had this conversation with somebody recently about favorite genres, and my palette is so broad. It's everywhere from like country to Motown to rock to Dave Matthews Band. My top two favorite artists, like without a doubt, no questions, are John Mayer and Stevie Wonder, which two very different artists, but two huge inspirations for me. Two of my faves, never get old. I've seen them both a few times, and they're just top tier for me.
And so before we got on now, BJ, I think I'm reading your mind here. Before we started recording, you had mentioned an interesting story you have about John Mayer. You care sharing about what that story is?
Yeah, so I have a good friend. His name is Jim, who is from Fairfield County. John Mayer's also from Fairfield County. And Jim grew up with John Mayer's brother. And meeting Jim, being friends with Jim, he learned that I was a big John Mayer fan. So 2016, 2017, John Mayer started touring with the Grateful Dead, doing the Dead and Company thing. And my buddy Jim had gotten tickets, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to come? It'll be great. We'll go." I'm like, "Yeah, cool." He's like, "Great seats." It was in Hartford, great seats, close to the stage. And I'm stoked. I'm like, close seats, Dead and Company. I like the Grateful Dead, John Mayer. It's going to be awesome. So we get there, we're having some drinks in the dirt lot in Hartford.
Yep.
And he's like, "Surprise, we're actually going backstage." And I'm like, what exactly does that entail? Like, are we just walking backstage? Really cool, like VIP, whatever. We ended up in John Mayer's goddamn dressing room while John Mayer is tuning his guitars before going on stage with like nobody else. Like, it's me and Jim and another friend and John Mayer just in this super intimate, like, tuning guitar situation before this show. And I am like, absolutely not playing it cool. I'm like texting my dad, and I'm like, I'm not good. I'm not good. And John Mayer, like, I meet John Mayer, he's like just talking to him, and I'm trying not to fangirl, trying to play it cool. And he's like, you guys want anything? Anybody want a beer? And he takes out a beer, he opens it, and he's like, "I don't want the whole thing." I was like, "Okay." And it was a Treehouse beer. I'll never forget, it was a Treehouse beer.
Wow.
And he opens it, and he's like, "I don't really want a whole beer." So I'm like, "You want to split it?" So I shared a beer with John Mayer
That's like
before
like
a Dead and Company show.
That's like you made out with John Mayer, kind of.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And I have this great photo of me and John Mayer that I used to have when I worked in the office. I had it framed on my desk in the office, so everybody would ask me about it. It was it's a great conversation.
We might have to have you send us that picture.
I can absolutely do that for you.
Yeah,
I still have it. But it was a really, really crazy moment. Like, you're like, "Cool, I'm going backstage to this show." It's not like, it wasn't even like a fan meet and greet situation. It was just like hanging out with John Mayer before a show. It was the wildest thing.
That's so cool.
Now, did you have like a cool conversation with him at all, or were you kind of just letting the moment kind of just absorb it?
I couldn't tell you what I said or what happened until like we were walking out, and I realized that we hadn't taken a photo, and I immediately was like, "Wait, can we please take a picture? Like, please." And he was super cool about it. Like, really, really cool guy. Super casual, very, very cool. But I also think I may have blacked out for some of it because I was just so overstimulated.
Awesome.
That is cool.
That's so cool.
So getting back to the music piece now. So you watched your dad growing up, right?
Yep.
And I'm sure you have memories of watching him perform, probably, if I had to guess, and kind of that getting that itch, right? But you're also seeing the behind the scenes creativity that goes into what music really is. Is that something that you yourself had to develop? Did you find that you had it kind of in your bones, like in your DNA almost? Or is it something you had to craft as time's gone on and as you've gotten older and understood the business better?
I definitely, even as a kid, like, I was definitely a creative kid. Like, I was more artsy and performy and English literature, reading, all of that, than like brainy and sciencey, whatever. So I definitely grew up a creative. And I was very imaginative, always had like my imaginary friends, always making stories, making my parents sit and watch whatever play or routine I could come up with. But the older I got, it's definitely something that I had to figure out to be able to just kind of have my creative expression in a way that was authentic and real when I was going on stage or if I was performing. Even still to this day, like, a big thing for me is getting like thoughts and just creative thoughts down on paper. So I'll journal a little bit every day, and if it's as simple as rehashing my day or just like writing a quick thought or something I think could be cool as like a 3-4 word line as a lyric at some point. It's really important. It has always been really helpful for me to get those thoughts down on paper. I have vivid memories of being in high school and sitting in like the back of the classroom with a notebook, taking notes, but just like scribbling thoughts and poems and like song lyrics that were in my head. I actually still have all those journals on the shelf across the room, and it's like stacks of cringy journals from being 15, 16 years old. But sometimes I'll go back and I'll flip through it, and it's like, wow, I was onto something here. Like,
right.
But definitely something that I don't know that I consciously sat and was like, this is my creative process.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking back, like, those are things that I would do to really kind of figure out who I was and where I was and what I wanted to do with all of that rummaging around in my brain.
Yeah.
And would you say with that being said, would you say it was more of like an outlet for you?
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, especially when you're a teenager, like you don't know who you are, what you want,
Oh, yeah.
anything.
Trying to figure it out. Yep.
Yeah, you're trying to figure it out. And I went to private school, Catholic school until high school. So I showed up at Fermi High School. I didn't know anybody. I was just kind of quiet, and really took me like a year or two to settle in and find my way and figure out how to express myself. And I did it through music. I mean, even in high school, I was always involved in talent shows and like the theater and everything. And I had no real outlet prior to that, and that in those years, that was definitely the way that I figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Do you feel like it kept you grounded too? Like kind of, I don't want to say out of trouble, but like you're teenagers and you know, sometimes you can kind of go fly by the seat of your pants. Do you feel like
No,
it
it
kept you grounded?
absolutely did.
Yep.
It absolutely did. I wasn't a kid that necessarily got in trouble, but I wasn't a great student either. The downside of it is that I got into this mindset where I was like, I want to be a musician. I'm not going to need math or science or school or anything. I don't care about any of this. So the positive side to it was that it kept me super focused in a way that didn't get me into trouble. Like I didn't experience, I don't think I had my first drink until I was 21. Like I didn't party. I didn't do any of that. But on the other hand, I was like, screw school, screw grades. I don't care about anything but this. So it was kind of like a
balancing act almost.
Yeah, weird balancing act that took some figuring out, but it definitely kept me out of trouble.
Yeah.
That's cool. And did you find out like when you were in high school that, you know, when you're first went from Catholic school to high school and you're really trying to kind of discover and find your path, did you have like a teacher that kind of reinforced that creativity in you to really explore it?
I had two. My freshman year of high school, I had two teachers that year who I connected with. I built great relationships with. Both of them I'm still actually in regular contact with. One of them was the big music teacher at Edfield High and Fermi was Mr. Gianfrido. And he was, everybody knows that guy. But he was the guy, and he had the big choral program, Voices Incorporated, and I was a part of that as a freshman. And I didn't know anybody, I didn't really know him otherwise, but he realized that I had a real talent, and he owned in on that. He ended up becoming my private voice instructor for the remainder of high school, and a few years after that. Really, really helped me just kind of pave my way and figure it out, and taught me things not only about music and performing and helping me physically find my voice, but he really helped me gain confidence and kind of know who I was and find my voice in other ways. And he was really great for that. I always accredit a lot of my success to things that he had taught me. And then also, I'm sure you know Mark Doobie. And he was legendary Enfield teacher, but he was huge for me, as he was for a lot of kids growing up, but just as a teacher who was just always there for the students, and always just whatever you needed to talk about. So he's a teacher, but he was like everybody's friend, and I'm still in touch with him. And I look back, and there's a lot of stuff I learned and took from both of them that I would not have learned or had otherwise.
Yeah. Well, next time you talk to Mr. Doobie, the famous, let him know I say hi, please.
I will.
He was great. I always got along with him very well, much like everyone did. But you feel like he's one of those people that like you feel like he always had a little space for you specifically.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that was always very unique about him. So yeah, please tell him I say hi. Maybe he'll remember me.
I'm sure he does. That's like the craziest part, is that I'm sure he does.
Exactly. Like he remembers probably everybody. So kind of talk like even in that being a transition there, because his energy was infectious, right? He was able to kind of pass that to his students and so on and so forth. in the world of music now, there's got to be, and I'm guessing here because I'm not in that world, in that spectrum like you are, but there's got to be a transfer of energy from musician to audience and vice versa. Can you explain that? Like, what's it like performing like that? What vibe, what energy do you feel going back and forth while you're on stage performing?
There is nothing like it. It's the craziest thing because you're genuinely like full force feeding off of other people, but they're also feeding off of you. So it's just this wild, like almost overstimulating feeling, and it's just pure adrenaline. And it is just the coolest thing. And you experience it on so many different levels because as a performer, you cross tons of stages and you come across so many different kinds of crowds and audiences. For example, like I could pick up a show and I could be sitting in the corner of a bar with a friend playing an acoustic guitar and we're just kind of singing, playing as people are eating dinner. It's cool. People are enjoying it. You might have the people who are really invested, really watching. But in those situations, you're just kind of there and your energy is really your own. You're kind of just doing this for you and you're having fun, but nobody's fully invested. You have a situation like I played a show actually this past October with my band June, and it was our first East Coast show since COVID. We sold it out. It was a really crazy reunion of just fans and family and friends. And you're with this crowd of people and they know all your songs and they're singing along with you and you're so excited to be looking out at them, but you're realizing that they're so excited to just be watching you and seeing what you're doing. And it's just like the most incredible, beautiful, humbling feeling. And I remember that show specifically, like I remember leaving and waking up the next day, like I could never play a show again and I would be so satisfied because it's so hard to explain, but it's just like the greatest, your favorite, amazing things all happening internally and externally at the same time. And you're watching it, but you're also in it. And it's the craziest thing.
That's so cool.
I know. I want to experience it. But
so you got me all pumped up now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can come anytime. You can come stand on the stage and hang out anytime you want.
Oh man.
But it really is like a beautiful, beautiful feeling, especially when you take a minute and just kind of be in that moment and give yourself a second. Because a lot of times if you do it so often, you end up going through the motions. And even though you're enjoying it, you kind of miss some of it. But when you really take a second to just kind of be mindful and present and realize what's happening, it's something. Yeah. It really is.
You know, you're kind of giving me a bit of anxiety because, you know, when I picture big crowds and, you know, I'm not a singer. So if I had to go up in a big crowd and have to sing in front of people, I might have shit my pants. Not literally. Okay. It wouldn't be gross.
You might.
But I have to ask, did you ever have like any fear performing? And if you did, how did you cross that barrier?
Yeah, so it's definitely expected. It's an incredibly common thing. It's funny that you mentioned that if you got in front of a big crowd, you'd shit your pants, because if you two in this situation asked me to sing right now, I would shit my pants.
Really?
Because it's too intimate for me.
Gotcha.
You put me in front of 3,000 people, I can't see their face. There's lights on me. I don't know who's who. I'm great.
Yeah.
If I know that there's 7 people in front of me and they just want me to sing, I'm not doing it. Not doing it. It's just and I've always been like that. Always.
Gotcha.
But yeah, in general, it's definitely, everybody's got stage fright. Like nobody just shows up and gets on the stage is like, I'm great, I'm comfortable, this is fine. It's not a thing. I think it takes a lot of work and a lot of just constant repetition and doing it and forcing yourself to get out there and just doing your best to be confident to get over it. I mean, to this day, like I wouldn't say that I necessarily get nervous anymore, but you definitely get anxious. You get the adrenaline going, you notice you start breathing a little weird, like your heart's beating. And I'll take a moment still. before shows, and I'll make sure I have like a minute to myself where I can regulate my breathing. If we're in a space where there's like a nice backstage area or a green room and I've got the time, like I'm big into yoga, I'll do like a yoga flow, kind of chill myself out, just kind of take a minute for me before my time is everybody else's. Because you get anxious, even if it's like a good anxious, it's definitely something you notice physically, but I don't know that I necessarily struggled with it, but it really is just a matter of kind of making yourself do it and getting comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I also feel like if you're not nervous or anxious or don't feel some sort of way about it, you stop caring.
Yeah.
So I always, the second I stop feeling that way, I'm like, all right, what's wrong here? Like, what change do I have to make? Am I too comfortable? What's going on? So
yeah.
I see it as a good thing sometimes too.
Yeah, it's a great example of just having to take action. Like
exactly.
Like you said, go do it. Like, don't think about it. Just walk on the stage. And I'm sure if I had to guess, the second you get on stage, it's gone.
It's gone immediately.
Like, right?
Immediately.
So it's just that threshold, almost like both physically and mentally. You have to cross it simultaneously, and you're good. So after the performance, I want to ask this now, like, because you say adrenaline, all these different emotions, is there like a dump after that where it's like, oh my God, like either you're exhausted or you can't like shut it off for a little while, like a combo? What's that like after the performance?
It's the total opposite. It's just a full crash. I just had a conversation about this. I played a show last weekend with some friends of mine, and we just had a full conversation about this. My favorite thing in like the entire world is the show has ended. It's been a great night. I've got all my stuff. I'm leaving. I'm getting in my car and I'm driving home in total silence. There's nothing on the radio. I'm not talking to anyone. It's quiet. Because it is so exhausting. You get off the stage and it's like playing sports. Like your adrenaline's up there, now you're done. And your body is just fully crashed. You're beat. Your brain is overstimulated. Your ears are ringing. You've been like, and also being a musician is a super social thing. You're seeing so many people. You're talking to so many people. It's so draining. And you're up here. And you, especially when you're on stage, you have to keep it up here. So the second I'm done, I'm like, quick, off the stage. I'm in a hoodie. I take the heels off. I'm in slippers, getting in the car. It's silent. That's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
it's my favorite thing.
Is it like in your personal life, are you more extroverted or introverted?
I am so introverted.
So like that's got to be like 10 times the exhaustion level then. Like that's and BG, it's like we talked about like when we go to the prison or something like that, or we have a public speaking engagement, like after that, we'll always talk about like after we're like, God damn, we're fucking tired. Because it's just like you're putting so much out into what you're doing, whether it's a performance or an engagement like that. And I'm naturally an introvert too, and BG's a little more outgoing, but still. And it's just like, man, like you feel like exhausted afterwards.
It's a lot. And I notice it the older I get. When I was like in my 20s and I was doing this, it was different because you're in your 20s, you're at the bar, you're like, okay, a show's over, let's drink. And I'm like, I don't even really drink anymore. So I'm like, show's over, I'm going to bed. But it really is, it's exhausting. I'll look at my schedule sometimes, like my gig schedule, and I'm like, oh my God, I just need to like not leave my apartment for 3 days after this and speak to no one because the social battery is just
it's gone.
It's gone. There is none.
And so how often are you performing now? Is it at least like once a month?
At least, yeah. Wintertime is usually a little bit slower just because for an abundance of reasons. But the spring, summer usually gets busier just because you've got outdoor venues.
Oh, John, can you hear?
Did her AirPods die?
I don't know. We can't hear you. Did you mute yourself?
I don't think she's muted. It's not showing she's muted.
I wonder if her.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yeah.
My headphones died, I think.
Yeah, I thought that's what it might have been.
Okay, hang on. Let me just turn my volume up.
You still sound just as fine. So like the audio's not any worse.
It just said my microphone was off and I couldn't figure it out, but I think my headphones died. That's fine.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. So right now it's at least once or twice a month on the slow side, and then usually summer. Like I was just updating my calendar today before we jumped on here, and it's like every weekend, June, July, August.
Yeah.
Here or there, whatever. But it's usually in the moment, I'm like, okay, this is so much. But as it's happening, I love it, and it's the best.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I got to ask you, you've been on many stages. Is there a bucket list stage or venue that you would absolutely love to perform at?
There's two.
All right.
First one is actually, it's also a bucket list venue that I would just love to go to because I have yet to even go, but I'm
Can I
obsessed.
guess it? Can I guess it?
I say I want to guess it too because
Right.
there's one I want to go to and one I want to be on one day. So
Okay. Hold on. Let me guess first.
Yep,
Red
yep.
Rocks?
That's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say.
All right.
It's Red Rocks.
All right. All right.
I feel like that's everyone's bucket list, but like
Right.
it's so damn beautiful. I just like, have you guys been to Colorado?
No.
Oh
We
my
will
God. I
eventually.
went for the first time last year, and like it's so, you just get on, you're just like driving down the road and you're like, this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen ever in the world.
I've heard it's so
It's
beautiful there.
so incredible. And I just think that Red Rocks is so cool, and like looking at the way it's set up and just even sitting in the crowd looks so awesome.
It's just legendary. Like it's
it really
every level of success has touched that stage, I feel
Yes.
like. So
Yes.
it's just like, damn, like the vibe there has to be immaculate.
right.
Yeah.
And it's outside, and it's just like you feel like you're looking at it with like everything behind it, and
Yeah.
I need to be there. I need to be
All
on
right.
the stage, but I also need to be watching something.
For
awesome.
sure. So what's the second one then?
Number two, and this would never ever happen because they don't actually do this with like normal people, is I would sacrifice a limb to sing the national anthem at Yankee Stadium.
Wow.
That's pretty dope. So all right. So you're talking to a Yankee fan now. So
I think John just went 6 at midnight.
So why Yankee Stadium? I gotta ask. Like
On active.
so
Yankee
like
Stadium.
big time Yankee fan.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Here we go.
No, you're good. Like, have you ever been on the field or anything like that?
I was on the old field.
Okay.
The-
So what did you
years
go on there
ago.
for?
My parents took my sister and I to like just like a stadium tour for Christmas one year.
Mm.
And we went and like did the whole old stadium, and I think my dad has like dirt from the old stadium at the house somewhere. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. So I went there. It was one of the first years that it was open, but my boss at the time, it was a veteran, and he got to go out there for the 7th inning stretch. How they do it, right? So, but like we were with him that day, so like we got to do everything he was doing for it. So like that was so cool. But like I could only imagine, like we couldn't go on the field during it. Obviously, like we have no business being out there for it. But like we were right there taking pictures of them and stuff, like right at the wall there, and I remember sitting there thinking at that time, like, God, it would be so cool to like be able to be on that field while the stadium's full, like looking around, like the perspective of someone who's on the field, like a player, right? So it's funny you say that's so cool because I had like that thought in my head from years ago.
I've done it at the Yard Goats Stadium.
Okay.
For a couple times, which it's really cool. It's actually, I think going back to just the nervous conversation, that was definitely the last time I was actively nervous before a performance, just because you're down there and you're looking up at and it's just so different.
Yeah.
And the national anthem is just such a big, nerve-wracking song to sing anyway. But yeah, I've done that at the Yard Goats a couple times, and it is really cool to just be down on the field, kind of looking up at everything. Really cool opportunity situation.
So do they reach out to you for that? Like the Yard Goats would say, like, come to you for it? Is it something
So
that
I had auditioned like years ago once for them, and they had picked me, and then they just took my contact information, and
That's so cool.
They usually give it to kids, like kids in school groups. And stuff like that. But if there's like an opening or somebody can't do it, whatever, they've called me a couple times to do it.
That's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
So for anyone who thinks they have a skill, a talent like you have, right? We've been talking this whole time about your talent in the music industry and world. You know, we talked about taking action as far as getting on stage, right? But for people who have skills in other places, and whether it's in the arts or wherever it may be, what's your advice for someone who's kind of grown up in a particular field and have achieve the things you've achieved, what would be your advice to someone who's looking to achieve a certain level of success, much like yourself?
Just do it. Just
I love it.
That's it though. It really
Love it.
comes down to that. It's there's going to be there's always someone who's going to tell you it's a bad idea, or you should have a better backup plan, or just you shouldn't do it. But if it's something that you feel strongly about and you feel inclined to pursue, just fucking do it. Like you're never going to regret trying something that you feel passionate about. But I don't know, 20 years from now, if you didn't do it, you're probably going to regret not even trying. So whether it's like just even on the smallest level, or you just want to full force, just gun it and go for the biggest level you can, just try it. Yeah. That's really it.
God, I love it.
I love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so true. It
is. There's not, I mean, there's so many other things you can say, and there's so many things you could say to just, these are the steps, network, do this, do that. But at the end of the day, like, you just have to, I want this, I'm going to do it.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
Our favorite quote is by Jim Quick. And his quote is, little by little, a little becomes a lot. And it's true. With any little action it is, those little actions over time add up. So it's so true. And it's with anything. I mean, even just thinking about me and what I've done, the smallest things, from watching my dad on the stairs, like during band practice, have gotten me to some really cool places. And when I was 15, if you asked me what I thought I'd be doing at 33, I'd tell you that I was going to be on a world tour and I'd have Grammys and I'd be having platinum albums, whatever. Great goals when you're 15. Not necessarily the most attainable goals for just like the average person, but you still try. You try and you do what you can. And I've done so many things, and the older I got really appreciative of the things that I've done, and my goals shifted a little bit. And at the end of the day, I don't have Grammys, I'm not on a world tour, but I feel like I'm still living the dream that I wanted when I was 15. I've done so many things, and it may not be on the level I thought that I would have been at or I'd hoped to be at, but.
So this is the catch, is the things that you're talking about, the tours, the Grammys, those things, those are the material things we can say, right? Material things, the objects you were chasing. And the reason you feel the way you do today and so good about where you are today is because you're fulfilled.
Right.
And that's the difference. And people need to realize, like, your goals shifted and your mindset shifted because you were fulfilled. Yep. And that, like, your life and where it's at now, like, you're looking back on it and you're going like, oh, but I did do it though. Like, I made it, and like, not everybody can say that. And it's cool that you're in a place where you can look back and say that, like, I'm fulfilled with my life. Like, I've done so many cool things with so much more to come, but you're fulfilled now. And that's really, really cool. And I think that you should be proud of that, because clearly you've worked really hard for it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I think about that a lot in that perspective too, because I did the American Idol thing at one point back in like 2012.
How was that, by the way?
It was an experience. It was an experience.
Yeah.
My NDA is expired. I can talk about this now. It was cool. I am so grateful for the journey that I had with it. I met so many cool people. It was a dream that I had as a 10-year-old kid that I literally went and made happen as a 21-year-old kid, which, thinking about it that way, is so cool. Thinking about it now, it's not something I would ever do again. That's not to discourage anyone else from wanting to try it if they felt that they should. Just not for me. It was not for me. They're making television is what they're doing, and it was not fulfilling by any means for me. But 10-year-old me made my actual dream come true, which is a really cool thing to look back and think about.
That is cool. That is cool. Even though American Idol sounds like they kind of with like too many barriers and shit?
It's wild. It's just it's TV. It's
Mhm.
a lot of it is predetermined before you get there, and they cast people knowing that they're going to send them home, and
Yeah.
it's TV. It's
Right.
reality TV. Still
Yeah.
very cool experience. I got to talk to Mariah Carey for like an hour, which was really awesome.
Wow.
Oh,
shit.
and I was out in LA for like 2 weeks filming stuff and doing cool shit. So at 21, it was a really cool experience.
That's just that's life experience.
That alone
that's
was just really cool. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what it's about there.
I still can't believe Ruben Studdard beat Clay Aiken.
I can't believe you know both of those names.
That's right. That's pretty impressive.
Like it was nothing.
Right? Yeah, that's the poster on his wall. You got Dave Matthews getting behind him.
Wow, no, my wife would not let that fly. Okay. Okay. So Olivia, where we can all find you and see where you're playing?
Yeah, my next big one is Friday, March 15th. I will be playing a funk night with a band called Six Fox Whiskey. They're from Massachusetts at Arch Street Tavern in Hartford. It's always really fun there. They're a really, really great venue for just like live local original bands. So they were always really supportive of June when June was more local and playing locally more often. And I haven't been back there since COVID. So it'll be a really, really cool experience to be back on that stage. And then after that, my summer gets pretty busy. My calendar is always up to date on Facebook and Instagram and everything. But a couple of big ones. There's going to be my band Johnny Six Gun with my dad at the MGM Springfield Casino outside on their big stage, I think in August. And then on July 7th, we will be at the Enfield Town Green 4th of July fireworks right before the fireworks start. So
That's awesome.
That's
so
right.
cool.
That is so cool. That's awesome.
That
Well,
is.
honestly, this is a lot of fun. You're an inspiration with your creativity, and it's cool that you're living out your dream. And we will definitely support you in any way we can.
Yeah, for sure. You're going to see us at some shows for sure. I know if it's not at a tavern or something like that, or somewhere where there's an age restriction, you're going to see a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old ready to rock the fucking house. So
GM is all ages.
Is it? All right. All right. All right. So
it's a lot of fun. It's also early. It's at like 5 p.m. So
you were speaking my language here. Yeah. Right? Well, before we do go officially here, congrats on your engagement.
Thank you.
So very, very cool. Very, very so happy. How are you guys diving into the whole planning yet? Are you just enjoying?
Oh no, yeah, we're in. We booked our venue a few days ago. I actually signed the contract today. So
dude,
that's awesome.
We've been together for 8.5 years. So
okay, yeah. So I mean, this is
just the ring and dove right in.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a conversation you probably had before the ring, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. We just want to congratulate you. Thank you again for coming on.
That.
This was so fun. This was really awesome. We'll stay in touch for sure, and we'll see you at some shows down the road here.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
See you, Olivia.
Bye.